In the midst of a turbulent divorce, a man abandons his own wife pregnant with triplets, leaving her alone in complete despair. "You're going to have to fend for yourself. I don't want any more of this," were his last words before disappearing. But when she finds an old exam forgotten at the bottom of a drawer, an unbelievable detail changes everything and reveals something no one could have imagined. What this role hid was about to transform the whole story. During a tension-laden divorce hearing, the court fell silent as Michael rose sharply from his chair, his face contorted with anger. Sarah, sitting across the table, held her 8-month-old belly with both hands, feeling the 3 babies fidgeting restlessly inside her, as if they could sense the storm that was coming. "I'm not going to support children that aren't mine," shouted Michael, pointing his finger at his pregnant wife. His voice echoed through the cold walls of the courtroom, like a hammer slamming into Sarah's chest. "This woman cheated on me with the doctor. These triplets have nothing to do with me." Sarah's lawyer tried to intervene. "Mr. Michael, please keep your composure. We are in a courtroom." "Composure?" Michael laughed bitterly. "My wife is pregnant with 3 children by another man, and you want me to have composure?" He turned to Sarah, who was pale as paper. "You thought I was an idiot, right, Sarah? Did you think I wouldn't find out?" Sarah felt a strong contraction and squeezed her belly. His voice came out weak, almost a whisper. "Michael, for God's sake, you know that's not true. You were with me at all the appointments, you saw the exams." "Lie," he bellowed. "You and that shitty doctor hit each other on my back. And he still has the nerve to come here crying, playing the role of a victim." The judge hit the gavel. "Mr. Michael, I will not tolerate that kind of language in my courtroom." But Michael was already out of control. He took the papers from the table and threw them on the floor. "I will not pay alimony for children who are not mine. Let her turn around." He looked at Sarah one last time, with pure contempt in his eyes. "Are you disgusted me, Sarah? I can't even look at you." And he left, slamming the door, leaving Sarah alone in the courtroom, feeling the world come crashing down around her. The contractions became stronger, and she held the table so she wouldn't fall. The lawyer approached, worried. "Miss Sarah, are you okay? Do you want me to call an ambulance?" Sarah shook her head, trying to control her tears. I need to get out of here." He stood up with difficulty, his heavy belly making every movement painful. "I need to go home." But when she got home, a cruel reality awaited her. Michael had changed the locks. She knocked on the door, screamed for him, but there was no answer. The neighbors looked out the windows, whispering to each other. Sarah sat on the steps of her own house, with nowhere to go. That was how 3 days later, she found herself at the door of a shelter for pregnant women, carrying only a small suitcase and the weight of 3 lives inside her. The shelter's coordinator, a middle-aged woman named Helena, greeted her kindly. "You can stay as long as you need, honey. Here you are safe." Sarah looked around the shared dorm, the simple beds, the peeling walls. He never imagined that one day he would be there. He sat on the bed designated for her and put his hand on her belly. "Sorry, my babies. Mom promises she'll find a way." That same night, while the other women slept, Sarah stayed awake, feeling the babies moving. One of the women, older, approached her. "First night is always the hardest," she said in a motherly voice. "I'm Conceição. I've been here for 2 months. My husband also abandoned me when he found out I was pregnant." Sarah wiped away a tear. "How can you handle it?" "One day at a time, daughter, and with faith that things will get better. They always improve." But for Sarah at that moment it seemed impossible that things could get better. She was 8 months pregnant with triplets, with no money, no home, no husband. And the worst, without understanding how the man who once swore to love her forever had become that stranger full of hatred. But to understand how Sarah and Michael got to that point of total destruction, you have to go back 3 years in time, when they were a completely different couple. Sarah was in the kitchen preparing dinner when she heard the key in the lock. Michael came home from work with a smile on his face, something she hadn't seen in weeks. "Honey, you won't believe it," he said, hugging her from behind and kissing her neck. "Dr. Henrique said that we have a 70% chance of success with IVF." Sarah turned in his arms, her eyes shining with hope. "Really? Did he really say that?" "I said yes. What's more, he explained that with my sperm and eggs, the chance of triplets is higher than normal because of hormones." Michael held Sarah's face with both hands. "Sarah, we can have the children we've always dreamed of. They had been trying to conceive for 4 years. Month after month, test after negative test. Sarah cried so many times that there came a point when Michael no longer knew how to comfort her. They went to doctors, did tests, tried everything. With each appointment, a new hope that soon turned into disappointment. "Are you sure you want to try again?" asked Sarah, afraid of yet another disappointment. "What if it doesn't work out?" Michael kissed her on the forehead. "It's going to work out, love. I feel it in my heart. And if by chance more than one baby comes, even better. Our house will be full of laughter." The fertilization clinic was modern, all white and shiny. Dr. Henrique, a man of about 40, always very professional, explained the procedure in detail. "Mr. Michael, Mrs. Sarah, do you understand all the risks? Multiple pregnancies require much more care, much more monitoring. Doctor, we've wanted to have children for so long," Michael said, holding Sarah's hand. "If God wants to send 2, 3, 4, we will welcome them with open arms." Sarah smiled, moved. "It's true, Doctor. We are prepared for anything." The procedure was done on a Tuesday morning. Sarah lay on the operating table, nervous but hopeful. Michael held her hand throughout the process. "Ready," said Dr. Henrique after a few minutes. "Now we have to wait and hope. In 2 weeks, you do the blood test." Those 2 weeks felt like 2 years. Sarah could hardly think of anything else. Michael tried to distract her, took her to the movies, made special dinners, but they were both in constant anxiety. When the day of the exam finally came, they went together to the laboratory holding hands. Sarah was so nervous that her hands were sweating cold. "Whatever God wills," she murmured, as the nurse drew the blood. The result arrived by phone the next day. Sarah answered and was speechless when she heard the nurse's words. "Mrs. Sarah, it is from the São Jose clinic. I have the result of your beta HCG." "What's up?" asked Sarah, her heart beating like a drum. "Congratulations, you are pregnant, and by hormone levels, probably from more than one baby." Sarah collapsed on the kitchen floor, crying with joy. Michael came running when he heard the noise. "What's wrong, love? Are you okay?" "Michael," she managed to say through tears, "we did it. I'm pregnant." He took her in his arms and twirled with her around the room, both crying and laughing at the same time. I knew it was going to work," shouted Michael. "Sarah, you're going to be a mother, I'm going to be a father." In the first ultrasound, when Dr. Henrique pointed to the screen and said, "Look here, 1, 2, 3 beating hearts," Sarah thought she was going to faint with emotion. Michael held her hand so tightly that it almost hurt. "3, Sarah, 3 babies, we're going to have triplets." "Are you sure you are prepared for this?" asked Dr. Henrique, smiling. 3 babies at the same time is no joke." "Doctor, after so long trying, 3 is a blessing," replied Michael, kissing Sarah's forehead. "Our family is going to be perfect." For the first few months, Michael was the most caring husband in the world. He did all of Sarah's wishes, massaged her swollen feet, woke up at dawn to seek her craziest desires. "Honey, do you want passion? Fruit ice cream with fries?" he asked, already taking the car key. "I'm going to go to the gas station to buy it." Sarah laughed at her own madness. "Sorry, Michael, these hormones are driving me crazy." "Crazy nothing. You're carrying 3 lives in there. You can ask for whatever you want and I'll get it." But around the 5th month, something began to change. Michael became quieter, more distant. Sarah noticed but thought it was nervousness due to the proximity of the birth of the babies. It was in a routine appointment that everything started to go wrong. Dr. Henrique was doing the ultrasound when Sarah commented, "Doctor, do you have children?" "Yes, I do, Mrs. Sarah, 2 beautiful girls." Michael, who was sitting next to the stretcher, frowned. After they left the office, he was silent in the car. "Any problem, love?" asked Sarah. "No, it's nothing," Michael lied. But something had planted itself in his head that day, and when they got home, he couldn't get out of his mind the affectionate way Dr. Henrique spoke to Sarah, how he smiled at her. 2 days later, Michael was at work when his cell phone rang. It was his mother, Dorothy, a woman of 60 who had never hidden her dislike of Sarah. "Michael, my son, how are you?" "Hi, Mum, I'm fine. Why are you calling? Did something happen?" Dorothy paused dramatically. "Michael, I need to tell you something. I met Marlene yesterday at the supermarket. Do you remember her? She works at the clinic where Sarah does prenatal care." Michael's heart raced. "So what, Mom?" She told me that she saw Sarah talking very intimately with that doctor. He said they looked very next. Michael felt a tightness in his chest. What kind of conversation, Mom? I don't know, son, but Marlene thought it was strange. He said that they laughed a lot and that the doctor touched Sarah's arm in a way. You understand? Michael hung up the phone with his head spinning. Was your mother right? Was there something going on between Sarah and Dr. Henry? That night, when Sarah excitedly commented on the appointment, Michael paid attention to her every word. Dr. Henrique said that the babies are growing perfectly. He's so thoughtful, Michael. We are lucky to have a doctor like that. Attentive how? Asked Michael, trying to keep the tone casual. Sarah didn't notice the tension in his voice. Oh, I don't know. He always asks how I'm doing if I need anything. Today he even said that if I have any questions, I can call him directly. Michael felt a twinge of jealousy. Why would the doctor give his personal phone to Sarah? Was this normal? The seed of distrust had been planted, and with Dorothy's poisonous help, she would grow until she completely destroyed the marriage that was once so happy. Michael's paranoia grew like a poisonous weed. 2 weeks after the conversation with Dorothy, he began secretly following Sarah to doctor's appointments. It was a rainy Thursday when Michael parked across the street from the clinic, hiding behind a larger car. His eyes were fixed on the entrance when he saw Sarah arrive, walking slowly because of her already very large belly. She waved to someone inside the clinic and smiled. "Who is she waving at?" muttered Michael, clutching the steering wheel. 15 minutes later, Sarah left the clinic accompanied by Dr. Henrique. They stopped on the sidewalk and talked for a few minutes. Michael couldn't hear, but he saw the gestures. He saw Sarah laughing at something the doctor had said. She's never laughed like that at me, Michael thought, feeling an anger growing in his chest. Then something happened that made Michael's blood boil. Dr. Henrique put his hand on Sarah's shoulder and kissed her on the cheek, a goodbye kiss that for Michael seemed to last forever. When Sarah got home, Michael was in the living room, tense as a spring about to burst. "How was the consultation?" he asked, pretending to read a magazine. "It was great. The babies are growing well." Dr. Henrique said he is very satisfied with the evolution of the pregnancy. Sarah sat next to him on the couch, putting her hand on her belly. He also said that if I need anything, just call. Did he really say that? Michael looked up from the magazine. He said, "Why, nothing, it's just, it is not common for doctors to pay so much attention to patients." Sarah frowned. "Michael, he's a specialist in high-risk pregnancies. It's his job to take good care of the patients." But Michael couldn't get that image out of his head, the doctor touching his wife's shoulder, kissing her face. That night, he could barely sleep. The situation worsened when Dorothy started calling almost every day with new information. "Michael, Marlene told me that she saw Sarah leaving a restaurant near the clinic. He said she looked like she was waiting for someone." "Mom, that doesn't mean anything." "Yes, you do, my son. Married and pregnant women don't walk alone in a restaurant." "I bet she was meeting with that doctor." With each call from Dorothy, Michael became more convinced that he was being betrayed. He began to rummage through Sarah's pockets, to look at her hidden cell phone, to question her every departure from the house. "Where are you going today?" he asked whenever Sarah picked up her bag. "In the market, Michael. As always. It takes you a long time to make a simple purchase." Sarah stopped and stared at him, confused. "Michael, what's going on with you? You walk so strange." "Well, I'm not strange at all. I just think it's weird that you leave the house so much." The tension at home became unbearable. Michael began to ask increasingly direct and aggressive questions. "Sarah, do you swear by these babies that nothing is happening between you and Dr. Henrique?" Sarah was shocked. "Michael, how can you ask such a thing? Answer!" "Of course not." "My God, Michael, he's my doctor, and I'm 7 months pregnant. That doesn't mean anything. Do you think I'm an idiot?" Sarah began to cry. "Why are you doing this to me? I never gave you reason to distrust me." But Michael was blinded by jealousy. "You spend more time in the clinic than at home, and he always comes back telling how wonderful that doctor is. Because he is my doctor. He's taking care of our children." "Ours?" shouted Michael. "Are you sure they're ours, Sarah?" The question fell like a bomb. Sarah turned pale, put her hand to her chest. How can you say such a thing?" "Because it doesn't make sense. We tried 4 years and got nothing. Suddenly, After you started going to that clinic, you get pregnant with triplets. Do you think I was born yesterday? Sarah felt a strong contraction and held onto the wall. Michael, stop it! You know the babies are yours. You signed all the fertilization papers. You were with me in everything. I signed papers, but who guarantees that the sperm used was really mine? That same night, Dorothy called again. Michael, I discovered a terrible thing. Marlene said that Dr. Henrique has a reputation for getting involved with patients, that he has had other cases in the clinic. Really? Michael felt the world spinning, seriously. And there's more. She said she saw Sarah entering his office at a time when the clinic was closed. What day? Last week, Thursday, after 6 in the afternoon. Michael remembered. Last Thursday, Sarah had said she was going shopping and got home only at 8 in the evening. Mom, thank you for telling me. I knew something was wrong. My son, you need to protect yourself. This woman is blatantly deceiving you. And the worst, you will have to support children who are not yours. When Sarah came home from the shower, Michael was sitting on the bed with a terrible expression on his face. We need to talk, he said. About what? About last Thursday. You said you went shopping, but someone saw you coming into the clinic after 6. Sarah was confused. Thursday? Oh yes. I called Dr. Henrique because I was feeling some strange pain. He asked me to go there quickly for him to examine. And why didn't you tell me? Because it was nothing serious. He said it was normal, that sometimes it happens. I didn't want to worry you. Lie. Sarah was startled by the scream. Michael, you're lying to me. You're having an affair with that doctor, and these children are not mine. Sarah began to cry desperately. Michael, for God's sake, how can you think of such a thing? Because it makes sense. 4 years of trying and nothing. Suddenly 3 babies at once. Do you think I'm stupid? Michael, stop. You're hurting me. But Michael was beside himself. I'm going to prove that these children are not mine, and when you taste it, you'll leave my house. That night, Sarah slept in the guest room crying herself to sleep. And Michael stayed up all night, planning how he would get proof of the betrayal he was sure existed. With each passing day, Michael became more aggressive, more cruel. Sarah tried to talk to him, tried to explain, but he didn't want to listen. Michael, please, let's go to Dr. Henrique together. He can explain everything. Of course you want to go with him. You must have arranged the whole story. It was as if Michael had transformed into a completely different person. The affectionate man who massaged her feet had become a hateful stranger. And meanwhile, Dorothy continued to feed her son's paranoia with daily calls, inventing new stories, new proofs of Sarah's betrayal. Michael, Marlene said she saw Sarah hugging the doctor in the parking lot. My son, that woman has been making a fool of you for months. Michael, you need to take action before it's too late. And so it was that, in the 8th month of Sarah's pregnancy, when she needed support and affection the most, Michael made the decision that would destroy everything. He would file for divorce, publicly accuse Sarah of adultery, and abandon her and the 3 babies she was carrying. The lawyer he sought tried to dissuade him. Mr. Michael, are you sure about that? His wife is pregnant with triplets. Even if there was infidelity, don't you think you should wait until the babies are born? No, I will not support children who are not mine. I want to get rid of this woman as soon as possible. And that's how they got to that terrible day in court, when Michael publicly destroyed the woman he once promised to love forever. At the maternity shelter, Sarah met Emma, a 32-year-old volunteer who worked as a medical laboratory technician. Emma had gentle eyes and a smile that conveyed peace, something Sarah hadn't felt in months. You arrived yesterday, didn't you? Asked Emma, approaching Sarah, who was sitting alone in the cafeteria, absent-mindedly stirring a soup she couldn't even swallow. Sarah raised her eyes, still swollen from crying. I've arrived. Emma sat down next to her. I'm Emma. I've been working here as a volunteer for 3 years. If you want to talk, I'm here. There's not much to talk about, Sarah said, her voice hoarse. My life is over. Emma gently touched her arm. Sarah, can I call you Sarah? I've seen many women arrive here thinking that life was over. And you know what I discovered? Sometimes when everything falls apart, it's because something much better is about to start. Sarah let out a bitter laugh. You don't know my story? Then tell me, and Sarah did. She told about the 4 years of trying to get pregnant, about the happiness when she found out about the triplets, about how Michael changed completely, about the accusations, about the humiliating divorce. Emma listened to everything in silence, asking specific questions, trying to understand all the details. When Sarah finished, she was crying again. "Sarah, can I ask you a weird question?" "You can. Are you sure your husband knew all the details of the fertilization treatment?" Sarah frowned. "What do you mean?" "I work in a laboratory that partners with fertilization clinics. And one thing I've learned is that sometimes patients don't get all the information, or they get it, but don't pay attention to everything." "I don't understand." Emma took a deep breath. "Sarah, do you remember signing any paper authorizing the use of donor sperm?" Sarah's blood ran cold. "What?" "In fertilization treatments, when there are problems with the quality of the husband's sperm, it is sometimes necessary to use donor sperm. But this is only done with the express authorization of the couple." Sarah was silent for a few minutes, trying to remember all the papers she had signed at the clinic. There were so many documents, so many pages with small print. "Emma, if that were true, Dr. Henrique would have explained it to us, right?" "I should have explained. But sometimes there are communication failures, or information gets lost among so many technical details." Emma looked straight into Sarah's eyes. "Sarah, I can help you uncover the truth." "How?" "I have access to laboratories that do prenatal DNA tests. It is possible to discover the paternity of babies even before they are born, through a sample of their blood." Sarah put her hand on her belly, feeling the babies moving. "What if I find out that Michael was right? What if they really aren't his children? Then you will know the truth. And with the truth, you can make decisions based on facts, not accusations." That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She lay on the narrow bed of the shelter, feeling the triplets kicking, thinking about all the possibilities. What if Michael was right? What if she had been deceived by Dr. Henrique? But at the same time, a part of her refused to believe it. The next day, Emma arrived at the shelter with news. "Sarah, I talked to a friend of mine who works in a laboratory. He or she can do the prenatal DNA test for you. It won't cost anything. Would you do that for me?" "Sarah, I've seen a lot of injustices in my life. If you are being unjustly accused, you deserve to have a way to prove your innocence. And if something strange really happened in the clinic, it needs to come to light." The exam was done on a Tuesday morning. Sarah was nervous, her hands shaking as the nurse collected the blood. "The result comes out in a week," explained the coach. "Let's compare the baby's DNA with a DNA sample you brought from your husband." Sarah had obtained Michael's DNA sample from a strand of hair she found on his comb when she went to get some clothes from the old house. During that week of waiting, Sarah oscillated between hope and terror. Emma visited her every day, trying to keep her calm. "Regardless of the result, you will be fine," Emma said. "You're stronger than you think." But Sarah didn't feel strong. She felt broken, humiliated, lost. At night, she talked to the babies in her belly. "Mom doesn't know what happened, my loves. But anyway, Mommy will take care of you." Meanwhile, Emma began her own investigation. As a laboratory technician, she had access to records and contacts in the medical field. He began to ask discreet questions about the clinic where Sarah had the treatment. It was through a colleague who worked in the regulation of fertility clinics that Emma discovered something interesting. "Emma, the San Jose clinic had some administrative problems last year," said the colleague. "There was an audit, and they found that some reports were not delivered to patients due to an error in the system." "What kind of reports?" "DNA tests, fertilization results, these things." The clinic had to pay a hefty fine and overhaul the entire system. Emma felt her heart race. "Can you check if any of Sarah Silver's exams have not been delivered?" "I can try, but it will take a few days." Meanwhile, the result of the DNA test arrived. Emma went to pick it up in the lab herself, her hands shaking as she received the sealed envelope. He ran back to the shelter, where he found Sarah in the garden, taking a light walk as the doctor had recommended. "Sarah, it's here." Sarah stopped walking, her hand automatically going to her belly. "Clarice, I'm afraid to open it." "Do you want me to open it first?" Sarah shook her head. "No, I need to know myself." With trembling fingers, Sarah opened the envelope. He read it once, twice, 3 times. Then he looked at Emma, his eyes wide. "Emma, the babies are Michael's children. Are you sure?" "Let me see." Emma read the result. "Sarah, not only are they his children, but there's something strange here." "What?" "According to this test, Michael has a genetic condition that causes severe infertility. It's practically impossible for him to have impregnated you naturally. Sarah was confused. But then how? Sarah, that means that donor sperm was used in your treatment. But the babies are genetically Michael's children because something must have happened that we still don't understand. That same afternoon, Emma's friend called with bombshell information. Emma, you won't believe what I found out about Sarah Silver's case. Tell me. There is a prenatal DNA test that was done 4 months ago and was never delivered to the couple. It's here in the audit archives. And there's more. There is a document signed by the husband authorizing the use of donor sperm. But this document was also never shown to the couple after signing. Emma almost dropped the phone. Can you send me copies of these documents? I can, but I can't say where they came from. It could cost me my job. You can leave it. You are going to be helping an innocent woman. When Emma showed the documents to Sarah, she began to tremble violently. Emma, this is Michael's signature authorizing the use of donor sperm. And look at the date, 2 days before the procedure. Emma examined the papers. Sarah, and there's more. Look at this DNA test that was done when you were 4 months pregnant. It confirms that the babies are biologically Michael's children, even with donor sperm. But how is this possible? There is only one explanation. Michael signed the authorization knowing that donor sperm would be used, but then he forgot or someone made him forget. And the babies are considered his children because he consented to the procedure. Sarah sat heavily on a chair. Emma, if that's true, it means that someone hid this information from Michael on purpose. Someone wanted him to believe that you betrayed him. At that moment, Sarah remembered Dorothy, the mother-in-law who had always despised her, who always tried to cause trouble in their marriage. Emma, I think I know who did it. Emma and Sarah developed a plan to confront Michael with the evidence. But first, they needed definitive proof of Dorothy's involvement. Sarah, you said your mother-in-law knew someone who worked at the clinic, right? Marlene. Dorothy always said that Marlene saw everything that happened there. Emma had an idea. If Dorothy bribed someone to hide these documents, it must have been this Marlene. And if it was her, there may be more people involved. Through her contacts in the medical sector, Emma was able to discover that Marlene Santos had been working in the administrative sector of the San Jose clinic for 15 years. More importantly, she was being investigated internally for irregularities in patient files. Sarah, I need you to give me Dorothy's phone number. I'm going to make a call pretending to be from the clinic. Sarah hesitated. Emma, it can be dangerous. Sarah, if we don't do this, Michael will never know the truth. And you're going to raise these babies carrying the weight of a false accusation. Emma called Dorothy, disguising her voice. Mrs. Dorothy? Here it is from the San Jose clinic. I'm from internal audit. We need to talk to you about some documents related to the treatment of your daughter-in-law, Sarah Silver. On the other side, Dorothy panicked. I don't know what you're talking about. Madam, we have records that you contacted our employee Marlene Santos, requesting that certain exams not be delivered to the couple. The silence on the other side was deafening. Mrs. Dorothy, you can't prove anything. Actually, we can. Marlene has already confessed everything in exchange for not being criminally prosecuted. She told us about the payment she received from the lady to hide the DNA test and the donor sperm authorization document. Dorothy began to cry on the phone. I just wanted to protect my son. That woman was no good for him. Do you have any idea what you did? He destroyed a marriage, separated a family, left a pregnant woman in misery. I never thought it would get to this point. I just wanted Michael to find out she was no good. Emma recorded the entire confession. When she hung up the phone, Sarah was crying. Emma, she really did it. She destroyed my family out of sick jealousy. Sarah, now we have all the evidence. It's time to confront Michael. Emma called Michael, pretending to be a lawyer. Mr. Michael Silva? I'm from the San Jose clinic. We discovered serious irregularities related to the treatment of his ex-wife. I need you to come here urgently. Bring an ID and get ready for some shocking revelations. Michael arrived at the clinic on a Thursday morning, unaware that Sarah and Emma were waiting for him in a private room. Dr. Henrique was also present, equally shocked when he learned of the whole situation. Dr. Henrique, are you sure you explained the whole procedure to the couple? Asked Emma. I'm absolutely sure. I always explain in detail when it is necessary to use donor sperm. Mr. Michael signed all the documents aware of the procedure. Michael was pale. But I don't remember signing anything about donor sperm. Emma placed the documents on the table. Mr. Michael, is this your signature? Michael examined the paper. It was his handwriting, his signature. It's my signature. But I swear I don't remember signing that. Mr. Michael, did you suffer any kind of psychological pressure during the period of treatment? Has anyone tried to influence your perceptions of your wife? Michael was silent for a long time. Then slowly he began to remember his mother's constant calls, the poisonous comments, the information that Dorothy brought about Sarah. My mother, he murmured. My mother kept saying that it was at that moment that Emma showed the prenatal DNA test that had never been delivered. Mr. Michael, this test was done when your wife was 4 months pregnant. It confirms that the triplets are your biological children, even though they were conceived with donor sperm, because you consented to the procedure. Michael read the document 3 times, his hands shaking. Are the babies mine? They are your children. Mr. Michael, they always have been. Then Emma rang the cell phone with the recording of Dorothy's confession. Michael overheard his own mother admitting that she had bribed Marlene to hide the documents, that she had lied about Sarah, that she had made up stories to destroy the marriage. When the recording ended, Michael had his face in his hands, sobbing. My God, what did I do? What did I do with Sarah? It was at this moment that Sarah entered the room. Michael looked up and saw the woman he once loved more than his own life. 8 months pregnant with his children, thin, pale, scarred by the suffering he had caused. Sarah, he tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come out. Sarah approached slowly, her hand on her belly. Michael, now you know the truth. Michael stood up and tried to get closer, but Sarah took a step back. Sarah, forgive me. For God's sake, forgive me. I was an idiot. You humiliated me publicly, Michael. He called me a slut in front of everyone. She abandoned me pregnant, without money, without a home. I know, but it was my mother. She manipulated me, Sarah shook her head. Your mother didn't make you treat me badly, Michael. Your mother didn't force you to abandon me. You chose to believe her instead of believing me. Michael fell to his knees in front of Sarah. Sarah, I beg you, give me a chance to fix it. The babies are ours, we can start over. Sarah stared at him for a long time. She remembered the affectionate man he was at the beginning of her pregnancy. She remembered how he used to massage her feet, how they dreamed together about the children they would have. But she also remembered the screams, the accusations, the coldness in his eyes when he abandoned her in court. Michael, she said in a firm voice, you broke my trust in a way that is beyond repair. I spent 2 months sleeping in a shelter, eating donated food, being looked down upon with pity by everyone. You made me feel like the worst person in the world. Sarah, but now we know that it was all my mother's lie. And does that change what you did to me? Does that erase the pain you caused me? Michael continued on his knees, begging, Sarah, I'm going to sue my mother. I'm going to make her pay for everything. And I'll give you everything you deserve. I'll take care of you and our children. Sarah took a deep breath. Michael, you're going to be the father of these babies. They need you. And I'll never stop you from parenting them. But I can't be your wife anymore. Sarah, please, no, Michael. You taught me that when love is truly tested, you abandoned me. When I needed you most, you chose to doubt me. That I can't forget. Emma, who had been watching in silence, approached Sarah and put her hand on her shoulder. Sarah is right. Mr. Michael, what matters now is that you find a way to raise these children in peace. 3 months later, Sarah gave birth to 3 healthy babies, 2 boys and a girl. Michael was in the hospital, not as a husband, but as a father. He held each of the children, weeping with emotion and regret. Sarah, they're perfect, he said, looking at his ex-wife. They are, Sarah agreed. Tired but radiant, Michael kept his word. He sued Dorothy for falsification of documents and psychological manipulation. She was ordered to pay heavy compensation to Sarah and lost the right to see her grandchildren. The clinic was also sued for the clerical error and paid generous compensation to Sarah, who used the money to buy a small but cozy house, where she raised the triplets with love and determination. Michael tried to win Sarah back for months, but she stood by her decision. They established a visitation routine where he could see his children regularly. But she went on with her life as a single mother. Emma became Sarah's best friend and the honorary aunt of the triplets. Sarah, Emma said one afternoon as they watched the children play in the garden. "Are you sure you made the right decision about Michael?" Sarah smiled, seeing her children running and laughing. "Emma, I have learned that there are mistakes that love cannot erase. Michael broke my trust at the moment when I needed him most. This cannot be fixed with apologies. And don't you feel angry?" I felt very angry. But I discovered that carrying anger is like drinking poison, waiting for the other to die. Today I'm grateful for everything that happened. Grateful. If none of this had happened, I would never have discovered how strong I am. I would never have met you, who became my sister at heart, and these three little angels here have a mother who knows what she's capable of. That afternoon, while the triplets were sleeping, Sarah looked out the window and saw Michael arriving for the weekly visit. He still tried to win her back with flowers, with gifts, with promises, but Sarah had learned a valuable lesson. True love doesn't disappear in the first storm. And a man who abandons his pregnant wife out of unhealthy jealousy doesn't deserve a second chance to break her heart. She opened the door for Michael with a polite but distant smile. "The boys are waking up," she said. "They're looking forward to seeing Dad." Michael entered the house that could once have been theirs, looking sadly at the life he destroyed with his own hands. And Sarah, strong and serene, continued to prove every day that a determined mother can overcome any adversity and build a full life, even when the world collapses around her. Years later, when the triplets asked why Mom and Dad didn't live together, Sarah explained in simple words, "Sometimes the people we love let us down in a way that there's no turning back. But that doesn't mean we can't be happy. You are proof that after the storm always comes the rainbow." And so in that house full of childish laughter, Sarah built a family different from the one she had dreamed of, but no less perfect. A family based on strength, forgiveness, and the certainty that, even when all seems lost, a mother's love can move mountains and turn pain into hope. The end comment, miracle babies. So I know you've made it to the end of this story, and mark your comment with a beautiful heart. And just like the story of Sarah and her triplets, I have another heartwarming narrative to share with you. Just click on the video that is now appearing on your screen and embark on another exciting story. A big kiss, and I'll wait for you there.